Friends, I'm very happy to announce that, as you can see, I have a Paul Lin as a guest on the Champions DNA, and I hope that all my Bulgarian friends now finally will learn who is this strong guy who put a hell of a match against Sasho Andreev. And let's find out. I will try to find out who is this. I know he's very kind, very strong, very intelligent person. I met him for the first time live at East versus West 7, and he was so kind that he agreed to have this Zoom talk. How are you, Paul? How
I'm
did
very
you
well.
find back home? How was the emotion? Is not maybe going a little bit lower after this
Yeah.
match? How do you feel, my friend?
I'm good. First off, I want to say thank you for having me on. I feel blessed, especially with an international channel. So anybody who's viewing this right now, please do your best to like, subscribe, and share, because I think this type of interview is what's going to allow us to cross over versus the like East West. I know as an American, doing my best to climb in this sport is really important to me, to be able to cross those lines and make relationships with the Europeans. So I'm very thankful just to be on this channel and have this opportunity. Feeling blessed. All good after the match. Pecs healed up, so we're back to training.
After I saw the official footage which Engi put in, and I saw that you in the second round you somehow start
Yeah,
in that moment you see some arm wrestler getting with his hand here in this area, you know something is with the chest over that the pressure was immense,
yeah,
the first round,
yeah.
second round.
Total red line. So I had like just a slight pec strain. I would call it a strain. A little bit of bruising, but it's in the muscle belly. So no tendon issues. Like not
Nothing
not even
serious
tendon. No
because
detachment. No
Georgie,
different.
you know the big Georgie from Bulgaria. Last
Yes.
time he put against Jerry,
Yep.
and he has really serious tear. Almost, it was a question if he has operation or not.
Right.
We are happy that he doesn't have to operate the chest muscle, but it was blue all
Yes.
over it.
You sent me a picture. Yeah, I had. I mean,
Yeah,
it was very ugly. I've seen some bad ones over time, through football and lifting and stuff.
mm.
Mine was not anything near that at all. Just a little bit of bruising. So I'm back to bench pressing and everything on Friday, so everything's all good. But yeah, so much pressure when you're straining that hard and using everything, every muscle in the chain. things are gonna go at times.
I saw you in this position first round. You were literally shaking
Yeah.
because of the. This is you can see people in the deadlift doing one
Mhm.
PR and shaking because the nerve system is putting the impulses all over the body. You was really giving everything, and it was yeah, it was worth it. So you get the pin, and very impressed with the straight there. um and did you watch the footage after that?
Yes, yeah, plenty of times.
And
More than one.
now after that, do you think you could do something different, slightly different, and
I
would you
think
change something?
I think we both made some mistakes, and Sasho made some adjustments, especially in the third round. A little bit more back pressure. I felt a little bit more rotation down through my wrist, which was a great adjustment. If I had anything to do over, I don't think it would have been a tweak to the game plan, but maybe not, maybe relinquishing the third round a little bit earlier and trying to save some energy. I focused so hard on endurance for this match that I was thinking my endurance was going to be able to hold up regardless, but that turned out not to be the case. So it's been an interesting learning curve for me because I had focused very much on like static holds, with my training partners for long durations to be able to sustain that lactic acid and all that good stuff. And it still wasn't enough. So that just, coming away from a loss, when you come away from a loss, you tend to pick yourself apart a little bit more. So for that, I'm feeling blessed because now I have some areas that I know needed extra attention. So I mean, I don't think game plan wise I would have changed too much. It was just more about making some in match decisions and then having a little bit more in the gas tank from training prior. So great learning experience. I wouldn't change a thing about that match.
I saw a post interview with you. Probably it was on the East versus West channel or somewhere on YouTube, and you said that you prepare very well for the endurance. You did some crazy rounds, static hold 2 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
This is very good, but I think it's though a little bit different if you're doing with static hold or if you're doing with a sparring partner hand on hand.
Yes, that's what
You
I did. That's what I mean by the static holds. So the way
not
the way
with
I
rubber band, not with some pulley systems, with the training partner.
with sparring partners. So basically, what I do is I do my normal practice for a couple hours, and then at the end, I couldn't do 10 2-minute rounds at the beginning. I had to work my way up to that,
Mhm.
and I pretty much start with my strongest training partner, and then use a band resistance through my hand and his hand, and so that it was maxed out and redlined. And then as we get halfway through the round, we'll take the band off, and then
Mhm.
each round I wouldn't, as I got weaker, wouldn't need the band
Intensity is
anymore.
getting lower.
Yes, and then going by the end of the thing, I mean, I had the women. I'm working with the
Hmm.
women.
Hmm.
I can't do anything. So I thought that would be enough, but you live and learn. So I think I'm going to tweak that a little bit too, because my style, um, what I've learned, like my drives when I drive rather than sit, I expend so much more energy. So I need to find a way to condition myself through my own drives. So I think, I trained that static hold position, but in that match, I really was never in it. It was either me driving as hard as I can or getting opened up. So I never really got to that point. And I think as a whole, looking at myself outside in, I need to learn to arm wrestle defensively a little bit better.
Yeah. Um, this is a point. There is some genetic also be explosive and the endurance. But you mentioned that normally in your when you're eating carbohydrates before the match and feel strong after
Mhm.
the weight cut. Do you think that's maybe part of the game that you're getting these muscles very blowing up with the carbohydrates? Is there
Yeah,
something maybe?
there's a very good possibility of that. The only thing is I really don't see a way around it, with making the weight cut and then refueling as fast as I can, other than maybe shifting the balance between carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and maybe tweaking that a little bit. But I think you're on to something a little bit more with the genetic aspect of it too. I'm a little bit more fast twitch dominant when it comes to muscle fibers, so I really have to work myself into the endurance stuff. I recover quickly, but my endurance mid match is always in question. So that's why I try and focus on it, because I think I'm so fast twitch dominant. Everything's snappy,
Mm,
but when it comes to sustainment, it's not the same.
yeah. Okay. Well, there is a moment in the game in the match where Neil is saying what they're doing after the second and the third round. The Sasho was not in his place and he was behind some walls, and the reason for that was I find very big ventilator on the stage,
Mm-hmm.
big one. Maybe it
Mm-hmm.
was there for cooling the lights on the
Mm-hmm.
stage, and I took it, draw it back, and said, "Come, bring me your hands,"
Yeah.
and blowing him completely.
Yeah.
Oh, because you know, 100%, you want
Yeah.
to be warm starting,
Yeah.
but after your first and second round, you try to keep cool the guy, try to go down with the temperature of the muscles, and I think that helped a little bit.
I'm sure.
And but it was so tight the match, and Sasho mentioned many times he was making the mistakes. We second round we put the height of the
Mhm.
end. It was even easier for you that he can catch it, and yeah, and back pressure and activation
Mhm.
the supination
Yep,
and
downward
the
rotation.
rotation. That was the key
Yep.
of the whole match.
Yep, I felt it right when I felt it. Yeah. I knew it right when I felt it.
Yeah, and I can tell you, we spoke with Sasho, and he's really like he really likes you because most of the time he's upset of people talking too much, and he said Paul is very kind. He's not having so big mount. He respects the opponents, and I really like it. And he's bringing it on the table. Everything is on the table. He's showing, proving on the table, and I think everybody see it, and
Well, I think
that makes you so special, actually.
I think to be honest, like when I look back at, through competition in life, and like playing other sports prior, and especially in America with our, over dramatized media driven sports, it lends itself to teach young people to be as loud and as bright and as, colorful as possible, to draw as much attention to yourself as possible. And, being that I coach football and I'm like actively involved with the youth, I see it now so much. And I see kids that are wanting to, separate themselves through, their actions or what they wear, to draw attention. And what I noticed the biggest problem a lot of times is the guys who are trying to draw the attention to themselves aren't showing the value on the field or on the court. So they want the attention, but they haven't done, they're not doing
Yeah,
what they need
switching
to
a little
do.
bit the focus of bringing
Yeah.
the performance and
And I
social
think
presence.
I think when I got into arm wrestling and I started researching some people and kind of deciding how I wanted to go about my arm wrestling career, I look at guys like, from the United States, guys like Dave Chafee, who doesn't really say much, but goes and wins. To me, that's the way to be. And the more I interact with the Eastern guys, the European guys, most of those guys are like that. It's just business. And when you talk to them off the table, they're the nicest guys. And to me, that's what the sport should be. I mean, yeah, of course it's an armed fight and there's a lot of intensity and people. But at the end of the day, it's really a gentleman's sport. I don't think I've ever been able to have a match and not shake hands after. So to
Mhm.
me, that's what makes the sport so great. And I don't like with the East versus West concept, there's a lot of hype that goes around the matches. So you have a lot of guys that are trying to hype things up and maybe talking trash or speaking negatively because of the draw and the viewership. I just believe that there's a balance there and that you don't have to do that. Like some guys are suited for it and some guys aren't. But I think, like again, at the end of the day, it's a gentleman's sport. And when I compete against somebody, I'd like to be able to call them a friend afterwards. So I've been very blessed, and it's being able to compete at East versus West and meet the European guys has been refreshing. Compared to some of the competitions over in the United States, because we
Mhm.
have a little bit more of that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you so a long time ago, how did you, because you're from the guys that started not in early age, you find arm
Mhm.
wrestling for you later. So can you
Yeah.
tell me um, how it happened? How did you learn about arm wrestling, and how old were you
I mean,
starting with arm wrestling? How was the story?
so I hit my first competition at 35. I had seen arm wrestling before, like I knew it was a thing. Like we all saw Over the Top, and back when I was a kid, we had USA's Wide World of Sports, which was airing arm wrestling when I was younger. So I knew it was a thing, but then there was that period where it kind of faded from the media. So when AMC did their show Game of Arms, I caught the first episode of that and I was hooked. And in my head, I was just like, I'm looking at guys like I just remember looking at like Mike Solaris and certain guys out there, and I'm just thinking to myself. I said to my wife in bed, I'm like, I have to be able to beat some of these guys in this. There's I just refuse to believe. So I just found a local tournament in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and went.
But until this moment, did you grip up on the school or
Oh
on
yeah,
the?
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you were a
Everybody,
strong guy, I
yeah,
guess, in the school
everybody
and
arm
before.
wrestled. Like, yeah, but no, nobody knew what they were doing. People make the jokes about arm wrestling. It's the sport that every human being has done at one point in their life, regardless of gender or age, that nobody knows is a sport. So it's so true. I mean, I used to arm wrestle every day in junior high at the lunchroom table. And then, it would happen at bars and stuff. People want to bet money, but I didn't know what I was doing at all. So, I mean, and I didn't know it was a sport. I just know I could do it. So, I mean, I think as a kid, I remember two distinct times ever losing, um, and was to like bigger and older kids. So I knew I was pretty decent at it. So that's why I figured I had the confidence to go ahead and find a competition and just go do it without knowing what I was doing. So I just went and found one, and I won the amateur class there, and I jumped in the pros and the super heavyweights, and I took third place. And at that point, I'm pretty sure that's when I tore my labrum in my shoulder. So I have a torn labrum in my right, and it really flared up, and I was questioning, do I want to do this anymore? So I
On the
found
right
one more
side.
right side, yeah. So I because I didn't know what I was doing, I was just hitting myself open, and that external rotation, it let go. Um, and I found a second tournament in New Jersey, and I went to that one as well. I had never trained at that point either. And at that tournament, I met Ron Klemba and Tim Breslin. A lot of the really good Northeastern pullers were at this competition. So I asked Ron if he could make me a table, and he said, "Yeah, I want. I'm not going to ship it to you though. You got to come up to Connecticut and get it, and you can practice." So I drove 6 hours up to Ron and Tim, and I practiced with those guys for my first time, and I got a real taste of what like a professional arm wrestling team did. And they're
Mm.
super intense. They beat the ever loving shit out of me. Like I couldn't drive home. It was terrible, but I was hooked, so I kept driving back. And that's really where it all got started.
Okay, very, very interesting. So, the first time I saw you, I'm watching American arm wrestling tournaments over there. Some channels they're showing. I watch, for example, Adam Virginski. I know who he is. Even before he was invited by East versus West, I saw you. Um, but I was thinking, okay, this is a new phase from this kind of bodybuilder, strong guys, not being strong, but not really having not the knowledge of the arm wrestling. But then I saw you progressing, getting stronger, technical, start connecting every time better and better. And at that moment, you are beating Rombat in the super match. There is nothing in this world can nobody in this world without really, you have to be damn good arm wrestler to be able to beat Rombat. No matter how old he is, no matter, no excuses. Rombat is Rombat. Rombat is absolutely legend, and to be able to defeat him means you're high level arm wrestler, very high level. And then continuing at the East versus West, it's really interesting to see how far it's gonna go. So it's what's happening in the States now, in the range between 90 and 100 kg, which means around
Yeah,
200 to 220
yeah.
pounds. Who is the top dog there?
I don't know. The United States is so fragmented right now. Like we a few years back, we lost our official national championships, which it made it tricky because we weren't getting all the best guys in the same building. So it's very
Mm,
hard to tell. And we shifted towards these promotions where everybody's doing super matches.
mhm,
So you get to see this guy versus this guy every once in a while. But because they're not all in one building in one tournament, it's hard to really say who's that guy. Then we also have different ranking systems. I think we have three different ranking systems, and they're all different. They got all guys in different weight classes. I'm on one in the 100 kg, and I'm 105 in another one, which I never
Mhm.
competed at 105. So I'm just like, what? I
Mhm.
don't even know. So it's tough because we don't have that premier promotion in the United States to force everybody in the same room. When we had WAL, I think we could have told you who is the top 5 guys in every weight class without a question, because everybody was going to those tournaments to get that, 10, 15, $20,000. So it's really hard to say when you say that 100 kilogram to 90 range. I mean, there's guys like Craig Touye is under that weight, but he competes in it. Dan Mosier, you got Brandon Elsesser, you got Rob Vigent, you got Brent Rackers. There's a bunch of
Todd
guys.
Hutchins, I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Well, Todd has kind of voluntarily pushed himself out of that. So I don't think any of the rankings have Todd at the 100 kilograms, but he is 100 kilograms. It's just every time he competes, they push him up into the big dogs.
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
Todd Hutchings comes back to 100 kilograms, he's the guy. He's the guy for sure.
Mhm. He was very impressed with your last practice pulling before the match of Sasho. It seems that you have some good advices from Todd how to go against Sasho, and you did your execution was quite on point, um, getting the pronation and
Yeah, he had
going on
some
the
advice
biceps.
just about some areas to strengthen my wrist in, and some things to try in the setup to try and keep. So, but Todd's so strong, you know what I mean? Like there's times where I feel like, he'll like you ask him a question, he'll just be like, I don't know, just be stronger. So he's uh he's special. He's special for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely built special, and uh,
He's somebody that I really kind of look up to because he got into the sport the same time I did. And now he's a few years older than me, so he's kind of the inspiration. Seeing him still being dominant at his age is inspiration for me that I can continue on for a good amount of time.
we can say starting early with arm wrestling is of course advantage until you're not getting smart. If you start early arm wrestling, not getting smart to be careful on your body and
Yeah,
building all these balances, then you will have a not so long career.
right, right.
If you're smart, you can do it for a long time. But starting later in the arm wrestling, you don't have so many miles on your joints.
Yes,
You can have pretty good. You're losing some things from the beginning, but you have the advantage that you don't have so much miles. And
there's two ways to look at that, and a lot of times in the United States, we'll look at the Eastern Europeans and say, wow, well, they have arm wrestling tables in high school and they start arm wrestling when they're young, so they have an advantage. So I think that is the case. Like you learn, when you're learning early, you have that base. Like it's definitely an advantage. But like you said, I know how damaging this sport can be. Like, and if you don't train smart and you create chronic issues, and they'll haunt you forever. The other side too, the benefit of getting in older is I think we get, you know, as long as you're pseudo healthy and you've been training. So like if you have a strength background, you've already created a level of maturity in your tendons, meaning holding sustained loads, moving sustained loads, those, the tendon to bone connection, all that stuff should already be pre-fortified. So I think that's kind of an advantage too. And I know a lot of guys, I don't know about the anatomy of this. I've never really researched it, but I know a lot of older arm wrestlers talk about tendon density continuing with age, and the
mhm.
tendons, unlike muscle bellies, can continue to develop into your older age. If that is the case, that has to be somewhat of an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And also that brings me to this myth about the Bulgarian style of pulling in the Bulgaria and how the Bulgarians are working out. I can tell you, not everybody in Bulgarian is working out like crazy 3 times per day, 6 times in the week. Um, for example, Krasimir Kostadinov, he is the guy who is doing that. He made that popular. The original idea came from weightlifting coach, very famous, Ivana Bajiev.
Okay.
He was. Did you hear this? Do you know this name about his
I think
method?
I've heard someone say it before, but I'm not familiar.
This was a long time ago. He passed away for a couple of years, unfortunately, but he was the guy be responsible that the small Bulgarian, we are about 7 million people. We're in this area against the Soviet Union, which
Hmm.
is,
It's huge.
Soviet Union. We're beating them, getting gold medals in weightlifting. And the story behind is very very simple. He started to go in a sports school, and he was laying down doing one workout, resting, eating, sleeping, then the next day next workout. And he was seeing his grandparents working so hard on the agriculture field every day, from the morning until the evening, doing the work there and repeating every day. And he thought, I must be smarter, and my grandma is putting more work on the field than me. That's not okay. And he started doing some creative experimenting, doing 3 workouts per day. And somehow he started getting stronger. And he was really famous coach, and he picked up young people, really young talented people, and he started experimenting with them, and really bringing a lot of load, very high intensity, 3 times per day. But the truth is, a lot of people didn't adapt. He was not believing in overtraining. He was believing in adaptation. So
Yeah,
you're putting the stress, and your body should survive. And the way to survive is getting stronger, thick bones, thick
yeah,
issues. And he was doing exactly the workout was exactly focused on, for example, weightlifting. You're doing the weightlifting. You're not doing other exercises. Really, exactly that what is the tournament. So we're competing arm wrestling. You're doing arm wrestling like crazy, 3 times per day. And so Krasi met in person this legendary coach over 15 years or 10 years ago, and talked to him. And then he starts going on the table. So
yeah,
there's two important things we should say here. There are a lot of people that don't adapt. They get injured, they're not able to adapt, go away.
yeah.
What
Weed
you
them out.
see, this genetic gifted individual able to handle this stress and getting champions.
Yeah,
And Krasi is one of them. Bojo is one, Bojidar Simeon, who pulled
yeah,
Adam and lost,
yeah. I love him.
unfortunately. Then Jordan Tsonev.
Jordan Sonos. Yeah,
Jordan Tsonev is one of the guys. But then you have different people like Tsvetan Gashevsky, the legendary Tsvetan Gashevsky. He built many world champions. They are not. They're working also very intense, but not like these
yeah,
systems.
yeah,
So they're mixed around weightlifting, table training every day, very, very straight workout, but not 3 times morning, evening until the evening, 3 workouts. And also very important moment to be able to handle this training, you have to be professional. You have to sleep,
yeah,
eat
yep,
on point. There is no time for job, another job.
yeah,
There is not time for distraction. Your discipline should be on point. You have to sleep. Don't go out with your friends having fun. And I can tell you, Krasi, your dance on, they have, in my point of view, the highest discipline to be professionals. and be able to do that.
See, this right here, that right there is really the definition of the difference in East and West. The ability to be able to do that.
Yes, yes.
Because I look at myself and like that I could fit that mold easily, but I have 1,000 distractions, you know? Like I would love to be able to just wake up, eat, sleep, you know, arm wrestle, train. That's it. I would love it, you know. But I mean, I think depending on how you balance your life, I don't think it's totally impossible to do it. But 3 workouts a day is very hard to fit in while you're working.
And they are not casual
Yeah,
workouts.
yeah,
They are workouts.
yeah.
And maybe one thing I would like to add is that works when you are a strong person. So you are built strong. You're some kind of like Sasho. You saw how Sasho is built, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
mesomorph
Mm-hmm.
structure, bringing a lot of power. This guy don't need a lot of weights to get stronger. I need the weights. I need to get muscles to bring the strength on the table. But these guys, they have already so much strength, and doing only table training, they're bringing the straight into the right
Sasho,
direction. And
Sasho
it,
also trains with weights, doesn't he?
Sasho is not in this group.
Okay.
Sasho, so Sasho was, I saw Sasho for the first time. He was 15 years old. He looks like Apollon. He was ripped in 15 years. He has his father is a pretty good wrestler, classic wrestling,
Yeah.
and Sasho started wrestling very early age. He was
Mm-hmm.
wrestling very hard workouts, and he was so developed in 15. He was 15 years old, so developed, so ripped up. And Hristo Derijakov, the main referee, 2012 was a world champion in Brazil, getting first place, 70 kg. Absolutely in his he was how many? So around in the 20s,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely strong. Meeting Sasho in one tournament in Bulgaria. Hristo has a 2 minutes match against Sasho with the right hand, which he was the current world champion 2 minutes 2 months before, and won really hard. Sasho was only 15, and on the left hand he loses to Sasho, and we everybody Sasho was absolutely developed, and having this background from wrestling, built for arm wrestling. He's not so tall, you saw, but his hands are big.
Yeah.
The measurement of the hands don't belong to a guy who is so
Yeah.
tall. Um, he's very special, and he started to work out in very intense with Krasi, but then he separated, and that's why he's very fresh actually. His tendons
Mm-hmm.
are okay. He's smart. He's working out very smart.
Yeah. I can tell that he trains total body too. Like I
Oh,
mean,
definitely. He loves
yeah.
weights, and he has own gym, and he's
Mm-hmm.
spending time and doing these body exercises. But then he complains in the last time we talked to each other that he complains that he don't have enough sparring time, quality sparring time, because there's also a little bit yeah, you have Chrissy in the same town and him, but they are not necessarily working every time to each other. Sometimes they are working out. I don't know what's happening there, but not every Bulgarian is like Krasi and Jordanson. There are a lot of guys. There's something in between, and the Gashevsky fraction building a lot of world champions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that there's those three, like basically three different groups or whatever that are doing. They're approaching things in three different ways and still all having success. So I guess there's multiple approaches that can be applied, or figuring
And
out what works for you and adapting.
yeah, exactly. And Paul, how do you train at the moment? This is something I'm very interesting. And what is your background? What are you doing for a living outside of arm wrestling?
Oh, so background, I went to college for exercise science and I got my master's in exercise physiology. So I've been like heavily tied into strength training since I was really young. And I played college football and then I played overseas and now I coach. So sports is just ingrained in my life. It's not my primary career though. I'm a project manager for the federal government. And then I also have some other endeavors, rental properties, and a couple other side businesses that I do. So I'm spread really thin. I'm doing a million things at once. But the good thing is coaching. I run the strength program there, so I have to be there. So there is absolutely no excuse for me not to lift. I'm there 5 days a week. So depending on how my schedule works, I'll do doubles if I can get a morning lift in, like especially if I'm preparing for a match. I'll separate my arm wrestling specific training out from my general strength. Right now, if I do one lift a day, everything's supersetted. So I have my training kind of structured into a split body routine.
Can I ask something? So if I'm not sure if I understand you correctly. So you are working out every day. Doubles means 2 times per day,
Mm-hmm.
in the morning and in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And you are separating your general straight workout with arm wrestling specific workout.
Correct. Yeah.
And every day you're doing it in the morning is the arm wrestling or the base test.
Morning is arm wrestling. My central nervous system is not as awake in the morning. So like the arm wrestling specific stuff I can kind of build up to because I do a lot of volume. I do max efforts and stuff and certain arm wrestling specific stuff based on where injuries are and what to avoid. But a lot of what I'm doing is volume and holds. And I structure that with the with the body part that I'm going to train in the afternoon. So like if I'm doing any type of push exercise, shoulders, shoulders or chest, I'll pair that up with wrist flexion, fingers, everything this way, so as to not combat. Like if I'm doing a pull day and I wind up with my hand and wrist totally blown up. So I do the rotation, pronation, supination, all different variations of that, along with my pull days and my leg days. And on my shoulder days, I focus on rising and sinking and a bunch of different variations. But I don't I've pretty much own every arm wrestling training tool known to man. I think I bought when I first got started. I just started buying everything. So I have so many things that I can do, but it's interesting through the process. I've really gone back to a lot of the basics, like a wrist wrench, a multi spinner tool, a rolling handle, and a karate belt. These things, you spend all this money on these fancy tools, and at the end of the day, you come back to the stuff that you can make yourself. So those basic specifics are really, I think, what has has allowed me to focus on training and work my way up a little bit more. I'm not the type of guy that writes stuff down. I hate writing things down. I have a program. It's in my head. I have goals. I want to hit PRs. I track it in my head. But because I like the gym and I enjoy it, I don't want to be a slave to a notebook. So that could be something I should fix. But I so enjoy training that I don't want to taint it by making it like work.
A little bit the opposite of Todd Hitchens,
Yeah, complete
writing
opposite.
every
He's always telling me. He's always telling me.
write everything down. My problem though is that I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting for 2 weeks how much was it 40, was it 42.5? I'm forgetting, and it's good to have. But
My
interesting
billion
is, are
is
you
big.
doing some the range of repetition? In which range of repetition are you going?
So like since I only get to practice once, maybe twice a week, on the table. That's the hardest thing for me to organize because in the United States we're so spread out.
Mhm.
And I don't necessarily really have like a dedicated training partner that's close to me. I tend to do the best when I have someone who I'm working out with every week who is on a very close level to me. It could be one person or it could be a group. But unfortunately, we don't have that geographically in the United States. So I do 1 week with my team that we practice on Saturdays, and then the following week I travel. So that means I'll drive 3, 4, 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever I have to do to get with somebody stronger. So on those trainings, a lot of times it's a lot more max effort. So because of that, I'm going to come back with a lot more soreness. So on those weeks, my rep ranges adjust for recovery. The weeks where my table training is not quite as damaging, that's when I'm focusing more on lower reps, higher intensity, and PRs. So it's kind of a floating scale. And I've structured it out now where like I'm killing myself on the table every other week. And then that other week in between, I'm focusing more on drilling, holding, using bands with guys, and fundamentals. So unfortunately, like I said, I can only dream of being able to train 3 times a day on the table, but that's just in the United States. Unless I had a buddy that lived down the street who was just as strong as me, I don't think I could ever do it.
There
Like,
are many ways that brings you to the top, and I think you're in the right way. If it works for you, well, obviously, why should it change you? Why should you do something
well, I
different?
mean, that's the eternal question, right? I mean, we what I was going to mention earlier when we were talking about East versus West and the crossover and everything. I think even though the West got swept, we didn't win any matches. What that's going to do and what it's doing is it's forcing our level up. So like it's not something that we should be embarrassed of or whatever. But now it's forcing
No, at
guys.
all.
Yeah, we're coming back now to the States and we're all texting each other and talking to each other about ways that we can improve for the next one. So having that opportunity is forcing us to adapt. So I think it's going to push the level up completely for us. So it's a good thing. It's a blessing. So that's where the conundrum comes in. Well, if what I'm doing right now is working for me, but then there's always that little thing in the back of your head, like, could I be doing this better? Could I be doing it smarter? I want to know what everybody else is doing. And then I'll make my decision, which is why I like having this conversation and hearing what everybody else is doing. Because so much of what is done in the East is not publicized. You can get on social media and see what your local third place amateur arm wrestler is doing every day, in the United States, because everyone puts everything on social media. And then there's guys like Sasho who doesn't really post anything. So you
No.
really don't, it's very almost like secretive and it's like an enigma. So I love the opportunity to talk to these guys and see what they're doing, because you never know what you can add in and what you can learn. Or if we're not learning, we're dying. So you're either growing or you're dying. You gotta learn.
You would be very surprised how unprofessional, unorganized our system is. But I think a big part of the success of the Bulgarian are passion for the sport,
Yeah.
that the sport start very early in in the 90s.
Mhm.
Everything starts, and somehow the people love to do it. They love
Yeah.
it. They enjoy it. We saw arm wrestling on the TV. um, it was normal to be, it was very recognition sport. Everybody loves to arm wrestle in the school. It's a part of some heights. We love that. We love that, and that's why you have a children starting, then you
Yeah.
find talents, and they continue, and then you have the Sasho, Krasi, and
Yeah.
Kwamen, and Lengarov, and Christo, and everybody build up, and they build new people, and
Yeah.
it's just,
See, that's the thing, to be honest with you, if I'm being completely honest, that's the thing I'm most jealous of. I am flat out completely jealous of the way arm wrestling is perceived in Bulgaria. Like that people care. Because to be totally honest with you, in the United States, no one cares. So like even though like if you look at like pay-per-view sales, a majority of them are maybe they're coming from the United States. Maybe a lot of fans are in the United States. But when you go out into a public place, let's say you go to a high school and you bring an arm wrestling table, everybody looks at you like you got blue hair, you know? Hey, like what are you doing? What is this? You mean to tell me that this is a real sport? So like your average person in the United States is very like they're blind and ignorant to arm wrestling. In the United States, if you are a gifted athlete, you are playing baseball, basketball, or football. You're doing one of those three things. And because the perception here is those are the main sports that are of value. And arm wrestling is not even known. So I would love nothing more than to be in a country where kids actually knew that arm wrestling existed. I've tried now a little bit, worked with a few people to try and reach out and do like high school club sport arm wrestling, and it's almost like the school districts won't even allow it because of liability. So
Mhm.
it's very frustrating. We host tournaments. We host tournaments every year. I have a state championship here, and I do my best to publicize it to kids. We're finally starting to get some kids coming out, but it has been really really hard. So
Mhm.
I just look at like sometimes I talk to these guys, the Georgians and stuff, like how they're kind of treated as professional arm wrestlers back home, and man, I'm jealous.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
people in Kazakhstan, in Georgia, they are
yeah,
even extreme. You're a hero. You're
yeah,
getting the whole city is going to the
yeah,
airport to welcome Ongabayev, bringing the next title, and
yeah.
yeah,
It's
I
amazing.
love it. I like it.
Yeah, I was explaining it the other day. I was at like my kids' baseball practice, and one of the moms saw saw the match, and she was asking me questions about it. She was interested in everything. She was like, "Wow, I never knew that this was a real thing."
This is
And
my
we had
hope that this time are switching, changing. Arm wrestling is going slowly over the social media into the yeah in the mainstream, which
yeah.
would be great.
Well, and that's what's so great about the East versus West promotion. So many of the Eastern pullers are quiet, soft spoken. They don't have a lot of social media. They're the best in the world. They're amazingly talented and dominant, but people don't know who they are. I think East versus West is bringing a platform
Yes,
where people from the United States, especially, are now knowing who they are. I can tell you, the United States fans now are becoming fans of the Europeans that they did not know 3 years ago existed.
that's great.
Even though they were multiple world champions, now they know. There was an era when I first started with WAL where the fans in the United States only knew WAL, and they knew nothing else into WAF. And I was one of them. I had very little experience with the WAF champions. I would try and read up, but I couldn't pronounce the names. I couldn't put faces with names.
Mhm.
Now this promotion is forcing my education. And I think that's so good. And the flip side is, as Americans or Westerners, I think most of us desperately want to prove ourselves. You know, we probably care less about what United States fans may think and more about what Eastern pullers think. So
Mhm.
I think a lot of us have that drive to just earn a little bit of respect and not be those social media guys. Those you know what I mean? That people know but aren't that good. So
I
I think
don't
it's a
have, to be
beautiful
honest, I
thing.
don't have the feeling that West pullers are disrespected in the Bulgarian, from the
No,
Bulgarian or the East.
no, I
We
don't
have a
mean
respect of the
no.
of you
I
guys.
don't mean I don't mean disrespect. Don't take that the wrong way. I mean just like because we don't have any Americans really pulling in WAF, we don't have that opportunity to prove ourselves.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
So we want to prove, like I think a lot of us want to prove that even though we may not have gotten to WAF or whatever, that we're approaching that level. Not disrespect in any way. Nobody has literally listen, and no one has. I haven't met anybody from the East who wasn't absolutely pleasant and respectful. It's
Yeah,
very
it's a great concept, and I enjoy it, and it's growing, and I'm happy, and that's why I tried with the channel to bring more Bulgarian, all who speak English. Even I'm not speaking good English, but I try to bring the people in that
yeah,
more mainstream. Yeah.
yeah. It's great. I love it.
Uh, I would like to end up the gym and the training chapter. Uh, you. you can't give me some numbers. Give me some really scary numbers that nobody in Bulgaria is willing to pull you again.
Numbers like
Bench pressing, biceps
uh,
curls, some numbers. Give me something.
I don't really
Deadlift.
so I don't really PR like I don't really do so what I've learned is throughout my journey the times that I've created chronic problems have been when I'm really doing one rep maxes. So I stay away from one rep maxes and I focus more on rep ranges. So for instance, like bench press in preparation for Sasho, I was doing just sets at 315 pounds. So I don't know what that equivalates to at for
Think around 160
something
kg.
like that. Yeah, so I was working my way up. I'll do a couple sets and then I'll do a rep out as many times as I can. So I pushed that up to I had a PR in that I did 315 for 21, which is something I had never done.
21 repetition on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, but I don't like that, and I track
Did
military
you
press.
ever bench over 400?
Yeah, yeah. 455 was my best, but that was way back. I stopped doing that a long time ago with the labor.
Yeah, but that was exactly what I mean. You're a strong person. You're joining the sport of arm wrestling as a very strong person. The only thing you have to do is to bring the power onto the table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's putting it all together though, and the connectivity is a big thing. That's what took time. Being able to stay tight and get that mind muscle, that neurological connection. And I think a lot of times when you see me red line like that, where I'm shaking, is because I finally found the connection between the whole chain, and now I can get to the point where I'm exerting that much. Like early on, I could never even get to a red line because a component would give up, you know. So I would never get to like a max exertion, something would stretch. But I think over time, I've been able to get to a point where I'm finally getting more connected and I can use the whole chain. So to me, that's been the trickiest part was shoring up all the angles so everything can stay connected.
Yeah. Yes, that's very impressive with the whole chain to bring. It looks very simple, arm wrestling just two hands, but actually, if you go in details, you're going this ocean
Yeah.
of details, which makes the difference at the end.
I guess for the training stuff that like, I don't, I can't shake myself from the idea that all the large muscle groups are needed. I remember when I first started trying, like I love to do rack pulls and shrugs. Like I see the trap muscle working from the shoulder into the back as a very important muscle group for connection. When we're working up
Absolutely.
from but to me, it's a very neglected thing. So for me, I focus some, and Zurab and I talked about it. Both he and I believe a ton in deltoid strength and trap strength
Yeah.
for the connection, especially for hook pulling, for internal rotation, all that
Yes.
stuff. So those are the bench press, military press, shrugs, all of the range of motion for the shoulders are a big focus point for me, where I think a lot of arm wrestlers focus mainly on all the pulls. I'm also doing the pulls twice a week too, and I'm also weighting them, but I also give an equal amount of value to these push related muscles in the shoulder as well.
I think we are gonna see now a renaissance of the pushing flop wrist, that
Yeah.
wrist press, shoulder press movements over. Everything starts with Jerry.
Yeah.
Then, after the success of Gasparini going with the press very successfully against Levin,
Yeah, even
you will
Underbot or
see more and
even
more
Arashi.
people
Yep.
developing this threat, especially in the high categories, heavier
Yep.
categories.
We saw Chafee and Vitali. We saw Rackley do it with John. the guys who are maybe not doing your traditional Jerry flop, but when
Mhm.
they get compromised, they wedge in. And we're seeing it to be, when you have that shoulder and elbow connectivity, even without your hand. I mean,
Yeah.
Zurab does it almost every match.
For all new people watching this, guys, this is very advanced move. Don't
Yes.
go in your first arm wrestling session and go in the position and give everything. Please don't do it. We want to stay healthy and we want you to be in for a long time into the sport. Don't do it.
Yes. Yes. No king's move either. No king's move. Do not do that at practice.
Yeah, yeah. Great, great. I think, yeah, everything you said, I absolutely agree on. It's very interesting to see. I also, for myself, I try to go to the gym, build the straight, and then
Mhm.
bring it on the table. I got one rumor that you maybe have an opponent for the next East versus West, 9 or 8. I don't know. Are you gonna be the coach for the next?
Yeah, something like that. Angen asked me, like I told him, I said, like, yeah. He asked me about July, and I said, Angen, I'm free, but I'm worried that I don't know how long until I can really dig back in with the pack. So,
Smart
um,
decision, yeah.
yeah, I said if you want my best form, August will be better. So I'm booked for August, but I'm going to come in July, maybe for some emotional support, and just do what I can do. Maybe some commentary. Who knows?
That's great for you to go to Turkey to without cutting weight, without the pressure of the match, just enjoying, be 100% support of your teammates. I think you will enjoy this
Yeah,
event.
when he asked me, I didn't even hesitate. I was like, absolutely. I would love to come over and be able to eat and be normal and go lift and then, do some pulling and then also do, I'll corner whoever I need to and I'll be down front stage doing the same things I would do. But now I don't have the stress of having to pull afterwards. So yeah, I can't wait.
I saw the complete American team all the whole time hanging out with you. You're some kind of the coach. You're the core of the group, and everybody's around you, and they feel very comfortable to have you on your side.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've been coaching for so long, and I genuinely believe that that is the best part of this promotion. It's all these guys that we know each other. We're from different states. Usually, we're either opponents or whatever, and now we get to kind of come together. It's like the idea of like the USA's first dream team. You got all these guys that are rivals, and now they get to be on a team together. To me, it makes it really special. And I just, Angen's always on me. He's like, why are you cornering everybody, rubbing everybody's arm? Why you? I said, because I can't help it. Like, I just love it. It's just like the idea of like competition. Same thing with football. I mean, if I can't play anymore, I still have to coach because I love it. Whether it takes up too much time or not, there's something that tells me I have to do it. It just draws me to it. So
Oh,
I'm looking forward to it.
sportsmanship and loving the sport is deep in your heart, Paul. I see it. So yeah.
Listen, it gives me back more than I give it, and sometimes that's like a hard pill to swallow because you want to do like I try to take this mentality where I'm going to share anything I know, for new pullers because in the early times it was hard for me to find that information at times. So I've kind of set myself out to be able to be a sounding board for anybody who has questions. And I'm trying to do those things, do the right things for the right reason. But in the back of my head, I look at the relationship of arm wrestling, and I'm like, am I really giving back as much as I'm getting? Because I'm getting so much from the sport. I mean, it's keeping me young. It's building friendships that I never would have had elsewhere. It's actually culturing me outside of the United States. I'm meeting new people, so I get so much that I feel like it's my duty to try and give back as much as possible. So I don't know if I'm failing on that end, but I'm doing my best.
I think that's the great way to see it and to not only to give the knowledge to the next generation to get better. I think that's the main thing, and that brings us forward growing. Okay, so you don't I saw in some unofficial groups somewhere I wrote that you're gonna pull the little brother of Rustam Babayev.
I
This
don't
is
know. I
not
mean,
official.
there's nothing official yet. The only thing that's official is the date.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
I'll let
not official
Engen,
match.
yeah, I'll let Engen release whatever because I mean you can look at the last match. I mean, I think I had two or three opponents before we settled on Sasho. So I'm sure he's probably going to want to solidify everything before he releases it. So at
Hmm.
this point, I'm not. I'm just preparing until
So
I get.